United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation.
He hasn't asked the U.S. Congress. He just got the go-ahead from Benjamin Netanyahu, and now we're at war.
Our demand today is really to stop bombing Iran right now and Congress to take action against Trump.
Tonight, we continue following the attack on Iran, which state media reports has killed the supreme leader, 86-year-old Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and a top security advisor were also killed in the attack. Good evening. I'm Madison Wilbur. Donya Romero has the night off. Taking you live now to Tel Aviv in Israel, where the local time is 8 o'clock Sunday morning. Tonight, the Iranian cabinet is now warning that the attack will never go unanswered. The statement was followed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard saying a severe, decisive, and regret-inducing punishment is coming over the supreme leader's killing. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports on what could be a prolonged war in the Middle East.
I'm Atra El-Nashar in Washington. Joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran called Operation Epic Fury have taken out top members of Iranian leadership, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, a key objective of the strikes and a blow to the Iranian regime that will have major repercussions. In a social media post, President Trump says Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems, and working closely with Israel, there was not a thing he or the other leaders that have been killed along with him could do. The heavy and pinpoint bombing, however, will continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve our objective of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world. This map of Iran shows just how widespread the U.S.-Israeli strikes have been so far. In recent weeks, President Trump openly weighed military action as nascent nuclear talks with Iran, as recent as Thursday, didn't immediately yield a deal.
We will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost and we may have casualties.
Smoke seen here in Bahrain, home to a U.S. Navy base. Here is where Iran is retaliating against Israel and U.S. military bases. The yellow countries contain sites that have been targeted, red have been hit. Iran has been preparing for this, running provocative Navy drills with Russia, warning any attack would be met with greater force than what followed last summer's Operation Midnight Hammer strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear facilities.
We learned lots of lessons from the previous war, and we will certainly teach the aggressors a lesson they deserve.
President Trump tells Iranian civilians to, for now, shelter in place.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Back in the U.S., many members of Congress, mostly Democrats, demand clarity on the president's objectives.
This sounds an awful lot like it could be Iraq War 2.0. This is war. This is major. These are major combat operations. And under the Constitution, that means Congress must vote on whether or not we send American troops to war.
Republican leadership issuing statements of support. House Speaker Mike Johnson says today Iran is facing the severe consequences of its evil actions. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, I commend President Trump for taking action to thwart these threats. In some of America's biggest cities like Los Angeles, New York City, and here in D.C., police departments are increasing or preparing to increase officer presence at sensitive locations like government buildings and religious sites. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar.
Let's take another live look at Tel Aviv. New details are coming down from the Associated Press, reporting that Iran's parliament speaker is calling the U.S. and Israeli leaders filthy criminals who will face, quote, devastating blows. Now, in response, President Trump posted this to his Truth Social, writing, Iran just stated that they are going to hit very hard today, harder than they have ever hit before. They better not do that, however, because if they do, we will hit them with a force that has never been seen before. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We're now getting a look inside the Mar-a-Lago Situation Room where the president monitored the attack. Other people pictured inside the room include Secretary of State Marco Rubio and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu there, and that prior to the attacks, Rubio spoke with 7 members of the Gang of 8. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance kept his eye on the attack with other members of the cabinet in the White House Situation Room. Now, Iran's supreme leader has held ultimate power since 1989, a rule marked by conflict at home and abroad. His security forces crushed the 2009 protests, and a 2019 fuel price hike sparked a deadly crackdown. The 2022 Masa Amini protests brought mass detentions and executions. Now abroad, the supreme leader backed Hezbollah and Hamas, expanded Iran's missile program, and pushed nuclear development, escalating tensions with the U.S. and its allies. And in recent weeks, his government was accused of killing up to 30,000 protesters. Now, the Iranian government denied that number, saying that 3,100 protesters were killed. The leader's death has thrown the future of the Islamic Republic into uncertainty.
من از شما می‌خواهم که در حال حاضر
I ask you, for now, to remain in your homes and remain calm and safe. Stay alert and ready to return to the streets for the final action at the appropriate time, which I will communicate to you.
Reza Pahlavi, who is one of the most prominent Iranian government opposition figures, says final victory is close. He calls the joint U.S.-Israel attack humanitarian intervention and claims the Islamic Republic is collapsing. The 65-year-old lives in the United States, and his support inside Iran remains unclear. We're now learning from Iran's state-run media that 148 people were killed at a girls' school in southern Iran. Dozens of others were wounded. It has not been determined if those inside the school were students or if there were known targets inside. The White House and Israeli did not immediately respond to a request for comment from the Associated Press. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is strongly condemning the attacks on Iran, saying the Islamic Republic has blatantly violated the sovereignty of its neighbors in its counterattacks. The kingdom is calling the attacks unjustified, adding that Saudi Arabia did not allow its airspace to be used to target Iran. The Saudis say they, along with the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan, stand united against Iranian aggression and warn of grave consequences for any continued violations. The United Nations Security Council also had an emergency meeting about this afternoon after it was called for by French President Emmanuel Macron. The UN Secretary General is condemning the U.S. and Israeli strikes.
The region and the world need a way out now. I call for de-escalation and an immediate cessation of hostilities. The alternative is a potential wider conflict with grave consequences for civilians and regional stability.
Gutierrez went on to say he wants all parties to get back to the negotiating table and work out a nuclear deal. U.S. Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz called the strike lawful during the session. Meantime, other leaders across Europe are also sharing their reactions to the attack. They're urging de-escalation, a return to nuclear negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, and they're warning Iran against indiscriminate retaliatory strikes. The European Union president is calling the developments greatly concerning and calls on all parties to exercise maximum restraint and fully respect international law. We're getting some more reactions from U.S. lawmakers to the attack on Iran. President Trump's ally, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, praises the campaign, saying, quote, "This operation has been well planned. It will be violent, extensive, and I believe at the end of the day, successful." Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman also praising the attack, writing, quote, "President Trump has been willing to do what's right and necessary to produce real peace in the region." Arizona Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego striking a very different tone. He says, "I lost friends in Iraq to an illegal war. Young working class kids should not pay the ultimate price for regime change in a war that hasn't been explained or justified to the American people." And Secretary of War Pete Hegseth is calling Operation Epic Fury the most lethal, most complex, and most precision aerial operation in history. Hegseth posted to social media tonight about the U.S.-Israeli strike on Iran. He said Iran refused to make a deal on its nuclear program and is now suffering the consequences. Hegseth went on to say that unlike previous presidents on Iran, President Trump is dealing with, quote, this cancer. The Democrat and Republican lawmakers spearheading an Iran war powers resolution say Congress must act immediately to rein in President Trump.
But the American people are tired of regime change wars that cost us billions of dollars and risk our lives.
Congressman Ro Khanna is calling for a vote on Monday to stop the war. Republican Thomas Massie on X writes, quote, this is not America first, adding that the Constitution requires a vote and that every member of Congress needs to be on record as opposing or supporting the war. Now, critics say the president has repeatedly promised to end, quote, forever wars and argue that today's action in Iran contradicts that. We reviewed official speech transcripts from 2016 to 2025 to see whether the president has used that term, quote, forever wars. Now, we found no instances of that exact phrase, but he has used similar language about ending prolonged military conflicts. In April of 2016, during a major foreign policy speech, he said, quote, we're getting out of the nation building business and instead focusing on creating stability in the world. Now, that September, he used the phrase endless wars at a campaign event, saying, quote, we are also going to keep our country out of the endless wars that have defined Hillary Clinton's career. In December of 2018, he tweeted, quote, I campaigned against the never-ending wars, remember? Referring to his decision to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria. Now, in 2019 State of the Union address, he said, quote, great nations do not fight endless wars. And in 2024, he campaigned on stopping wars and avoiding prolonged conflicts involving U.S. troops. It remains unclear how long military operations in Iran will continue. Now tonight, Governor Gavin Newsom is responding to the country's involvement in the attacks on Iran. In a statement on X, the governor writes, in quote, the corrupt and repressive Iranian regime must never have nuclear weapons. The leadership of Iran must go. But that does not justify the President of the United States engaging in an illegal, dangerous war that will risk the lives of our American service members and our friends without justification to the American people. President Trump is putting Americans at risk abroad because he is unpopular at home. As this unfolds, California stands with the Iranian American community in our state, recognizing they have many friends and loved ones who have fought bravely to chart their own future to end decades of state violence and denial of basic rights. Former Vice President Kamala Harris also issued a statement to X, writing, quote, Donald Trump is dragging the United States into a war the American people do not want. Let me be clear. I am opposed to a regime change war in Iran, and our troops are being put in harm's way for the sake of Trump's war of choice. Back to the Valley, in recent years, Fresno Mayor Jerry Dyer has been vocal on his disapproval of the Iranian government. In 2022, he took to social media to say people need to unite and call on national leaders to take a stand against the regime.
It is vitally important that we in America support all efforts to overthrow the existing Iranian regime, which for far too long has served to oppress the people of Iran and take away the human rights and dignity of the Iranian people.
Like we mentioned, that was in 2022, so we reached out to Mayor Dyer's office today for a statement, and this is what we received in response. He said, in part, quote, it is my hope that the people of Iran will take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to unite and overthrow this regime. Mayor Dyer went on to say in that statement he stands completely with Reza Pahlavi, also known as the Crown Prince. Now, staying here in the Valley, Fresno voices joined together today in outrage over the U.S. attacks on Iran. Protesters calling on Congress to put a stop to this war and to impeach President Trump. Honks for Peace filled Fresno less than 24 hours after the United States attacked Iran.
Our president, so-called wannabe dictator, Donald J. Trump, launched an illegal, unprovoked, criminal war on on a country, Iran, which poses no threat whatsoever to United States. And we are asking Congress because according to our law, this is an unauthorized war. Only Congress has the power to declare war. So Congress did not declare war. So we are asking Congress to stop this war and impeach Trump.
Protesters saying these attacks aid Israel more than the U.S.
This war is not fought for any American interest. It is not to make America great. It is fought for a greater Israel.
I'm so sad that people in the United States believe the lies that are being told that by our government, by our president, our Congress is useless. They go along with it, and we do whatever Israel wants.
And if the attacks continue,
We will definitely be back here.
Our government right here, not just our government, but we the people of the United States are really threatened.
protesters continue to highlight their concern for the people of Iran and the legality issues on if President Trump had the right to order this attack. They said the U.S. should be spending money on its own people rather than these attacks. Fresno City Council President Mike Carbasi took to social media today to share his thoughts on the recent attack. Carbasi said as the first Iranian American on the council, he carries both gratitude for the nation and awareness of the history that shaped his heritage. He said in part, quote, "For decades, the Iranian regime has inflicted profound harm, not only across the Middle East and around the world, but most tragically upon its own people." He went on to say, "My heart is with the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces in harm's way." Now, we want to know what you think. For our local question of the day, we ask, do you agree with President Trump's decision to attack Iran? Yes or no? As you can see right now, we're getting 67% yes, 33% no. We want to hear more from you, so make sure you scan that QR code on your screen or head to KMPH-poll to add your vote. And make sure you stay with us. We're going to show you what people are saying in the next half hour.